We covered Karen Reed's civil trial hearing that took place this last week, and we went into all the details at that. We looked at the civil lawsuit. We were figuring out and breaking down basically what she was facing in that civil lawsuit. Then we actually got to see the back and forth between the plaintiff and the claimant, right? All right, the plaintiff and the respondent in this case, right? Then we actually got to see and find out that Karen Reed is going to be somewhat countersuing a lot of other people, and especially and specifically some of the people that are involved in filing this initial lawsuit. So now we get to hear a post-hearing statement and a post-hearing press conference from not only Karen Reed, but AJ as well. And then we'll get into the analysis and a little bit of the breakdown of what happened at the hearing. Check this out. Poor girl.
So you need the whole change in tactic, right?
I think we're a little offensive during the criminal trial.
How does that work?
I need a fullback.
Hang on. Y'all didn't even let her get a blocking back. My lord.
We can move quicker.
Alan, can you help me understand what an affirmative claim is? What an affirmative claim is? It's an affirmative claim against third-party individuals. That's exactly what we intend to bring.
But the idea is to get them combined to save the court time and money.
All the same individuals are involved, so that's exactly right. It's a matter of judicial economy.
You respond to the fact that the judge would make it longer if you do this. You have all these.
Well, of course, because it becomes a bigger case, more voluminous, right? It's a bigger case with more claims, and that's exactly what this case calls for.
How did you determine
the days of Karen Reed being on the defense are over?
Ooh,
right?
Y'all hear that? AJ said, "We coming out swinging." The days of Karen Reed just sitting there, just hearing this testimony day after day after day, he said, we're done. We're going to be going after the O'Keefes themselves, possibly Brian Higgins, Michael Morrissey, the Alberts, the McCabe's. Nobody is safe. AJ said this in the interview we covered here too, and now he's just doubling down. They're ready to go.
The days of Karen Reed being on the defense are over.
Yeah,
right? That's what started today. That's what we're seeking today.
What do you think of the judge say? Trying to resolve this? Can you resolve this out of court?
Every single civil case should at least have that on the table. Civil cases are built and designed to be resolved if they can be. We'll see.
That's true.
We'll see. It depends on how reasonable the other side is.
Was that something that you guys would like to do, though? I mean,
Say it again.
Was that something that you guys would like to do, or do you want to make a point?
Anytime there is a civil case, look, civil cases are not about making a point. They're about trying to seek the truth, right? And that's what Karen's going to do with this civil case. We're going to try to get the truth out there. Like I said, the days of her being on the defensive, those days are over.
So you said
everything that you heard in there was basically parroted. Every single word that you heard in there was basically parroted right from Michael Morrissey, right from the prosecutions. They lifted it right off the prosecution's closing argument.
Right from Lowley.
And maybe somebody should check the tapes. Because last time I checked, those arguments were put forward in front of a jury, and the jury spoke very, very loudly. Not guilty, and not just not guilty when the jurors were asked. Innocent. Those claims are false, and they were proven false, and they will be proven false again. But in terms of what you just asked, should this case be resolved, we're always open to resolution. We'll see. We'll see. It depends on how reasonable the other side is.
We
got to go.
Jamie, did you want to say anything? I mean, you've been sort of point person on this, or?
Well, Alan says it all as in its perfect way. So, what we're trying to do is
that's the other
make
side.
sure that Karen is well defended, and that the claims that we have to pursue for her affirmatively are brought in the same proceeding in the most efficient, judicious way, so that her day in court is fully and fairly adjudicated.
But if you combine these cases, isn't that unfair to the O'Keefes?
Not at all. Not at all. Part of her defense is that somebody else put her in this situation. And so that's when I said it's not your typical wrongful death action. Karen Reed is in this situation because of the behavior of others. And as Alan said, she's no longer on the defensive. She's going affirmatively, and we're trying to put all the evidence, all the parties, all the claims in
no, I disagree with that. Because the emotional distress, which again, I'm going to continue to stand on this until I hear evidence that shows otherwise. The emotional distress, that is purely and only because of Karen Reed's actions. Right? So I would disagree with that. So again, lawyers, I listen to every single word they say because they're attorneys. I get what he's trying to say here, but come on. They had the drinks. Karen Reed and John O'Keefe, they had the drinks. Karen Reed was out driving, reckless. And then once whatever happened to John, she did what she caused the emotional distress to Kaylee, allegedly. So I disagree with that characterization.
Of others. And as Alan said, she's no longer on the defensive. She's going affirmatively, and we're trying to put all the evidence, all the parties, all the claims in the same proceeding.
How did you decide on who to name in the counterclaim?
I'd love to tell you that, but it's really sort of a litigation strategy point. So unfortunately, I cannot get into sort of discussions behind the scenes.
So do you plan to prove that someone else killed John O'Keefe?
We plan to show that Karen did not.
But that's not the same as proving someone else did.
Should be easy to do.
We're going to let the evidence play out. I'm not able to tell you that yet, but I can tell you that she did not.
How about, can you spell your first and last name for me, Colin?
Sure. Damon, D-A-M-O-N, Seligson, S-E-L-I-G-S-O-N.
Thank you.
All right, there it is. So now let's get into the breakdown of what just happened and what went down in that hearing. It's crazy.
Turn in the Karen Reed civil case. Her attorneys have announced they plan to sue key players from her 2 criminal trials. The announcement was made at yesterday's hearing in Plymouth. The focus was the wrongful death lawsuit filed by the family of Reed's Boston police officer boyfriend, John O'Keefe. Reed was recently acquitted of murder in his 2022 death. Her defense alleges she was the victim of a law enforcement cover-up. So they now plan to sue Canton Police, State Police, several current and former state troopers, as well as a number of civilian witnesses who testified at Reed's trials.
The people in the house were either police or police adjacent, who were socially and personally connected. Then they collectively conspired to ensure that what happened in the house was not explored and investigated. And instead, Ms. Reed was wrongfully targeted, maliciously prosecuted.
Well, there is a lot to discuss here. With that, we want to bring in our NBC 10 courtroom insider, Sue O'Connell. She was in the court for both Karen Reed's trials. So, Sue, the judge is urging both sides to reach a settlement, but it looks like Reed's civil case could be going to trial. So just how complicated has this case become, and why is it becoming such a legal mess now?
Well, Priscilla, because the vast majority of civil cases settle, and the parties involved here, at least not right now, may not have that as job number one. And speaking of parties, you've now got the original wrongful death suit by the O'Keefe family, and now you have Reed's countersuit against 10 different parties, including state police and civilian witnesses. And plus, you've got the suit by the O'Keefes against 2 Canton bars. They're being sued for allegedly over-serving Reed. So this now isn't just about the money damages anymore, which is what most civil cases are. It's about the competing narratives of what really happened that night. And as experts have told me, it could drag on for years.
Yeah, I mean, you make a great point. Most civil cases typically settle. This doesn't seem to be like that. How common is it for someone to flip the script like this and now sue witnesses from their own criminal trial in a civil case?
Is anything about Karen Reed trials, anything just normal? No, it's actually very unusual. And what Reed's team is doing here is they're claiming civil rights violations and conspiracy against the state police investigators and civilian witnesses who testified against her. So it's a counterattack strategy. And experts tell me it does happen sometimes, usually, though, when someone believes they were genuinely framed or that there was prosecutorial misconduct.
And there was.
And, you know, that's what she thinks happened.
What do you think the wider, implications are of Reed suing witnesses in her case? Do you think it could backfire?
Yeah, that's a good question. This strategy can cut both ways, right? It puts all of these witnesses on the defensive, and now it forces them to spend money on their own legal defense team. Now, that could make them less enthusiastic about participating in the O'Keefe family's wrongful death suit. Now, that works in Reed's favor, right? But it could also backfire on Karen Reed by making her look vindictive or like she's trying to intimidate witnesses. Not that she is, it's what it looks like. And there also could be a wider societal impact to consider. If witnesses start getting sued every time they testify in a high-profile case, it could create a chilling effect where people would be reluctant to come forward as witnesses in future criminal cases.
Yeah, sure.
Well, it's not about them testifying. It's about them lying. It's about a cover-up. It's about false information and about a DA's office that allowed them to lie. You have Michael Morrissey that encouraged them to lie. You have Commissioner Cox that said, do the right thing. You have an officer who had false memories. Sue them all. Again, it's so simple being a witness. You get up there, you tell the truth, you move on with your life. It's not that complicated, right? There's a reason the names that were mentioned by Karen Reed's attorney were mentioned, because these people were involved. They're hiding something, and the evidence didn't even align with their testimonies. Let me know what y'all think about this in the comments and in the chat. Karen Reed is back and she's ready to fight. I'm loving it.